evening, everybody. I pray that everybody is well wherever we are catching you from this evening. We are happy to come to you from before and after I say I do. And like we mentioned on our Facebook page, that today we start a new series on Before I Say I Do. Last month, it's been all about After I Say I Do. And this month is all about Before I Say I Do. And our series is on Don't Stop Living. You know, many times when we are trusting God for a Mr. or Mrs. Right, we kind of stop with, maybe I shouldn't do this, maybe I should wait, so many things. And of course, people tell us many things as well. And so that's what we'll be tackling this month. And I'm your host, Pauline Gikang'ah, and my sign language interpreter, Fiona Wallace. And I have two wonderful guests this evening. And as you've been seeing from the flyers, the posters, and I want to give them a chance before we start, we dig in the topic, to just introduce themselves. Let me start with men first today. So, yes.
Thank you, Pauline, and it's wonderful to be here. My name is Gikang'ah Ndung'u. I'm stickler to instructions, which I was not given any, so I will use that opportunity to say as much or as little as possible. But I guess one would be interested in knowing, my name is Gikang'ah Ndung'u. What am I? I am public policy researcher and a governance expert. So my job in a language that can be understood well is I work to enhance the public sector, deliver services to people. And I'm a Christian, I'm born again. Thank you and good evening.
Wonderful. You said that you help to do what? The public spectrum. What did you say, Ndung'u?
I work to make sure that the public sector or government, whether it's national or county, deliver services to its people, whether it is healthcare or education. So that infrastructure that produces goods and services for people, that's what I do to make sure that government are more effective or institutions of governance are delivering. Yeah. So Pauline, I also work with circles. So if you have a circle in Kirinyaga that grows tea or rice, and they need to fix their governance, they need to have a constitution, they need to know how to do elections for members, they need to know, how to take minutes, they need, that thing of how to fix sort of that governance, even for circle. Yes. I do that, and I'll train them even in Kirinyaga. So yeah, that's what I do.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ndung'u, even for explaining a bit further for us. Over to you, Purity.
Good evening. My name is Purity Wanguru. I am a mother to a beautiful daughter called Neema, and I am an auditor, internal auditor. I work with the UN, and I live and work in Geneva in Switzerland.
Wow.
I'm very happy to be here.
Happy to have you. How is Geneva? Are you 2 hours behind us?
Right now, it's just 1 hour. As the clock behind me, yes. It's just 1 hour behind. From October next month, we will be 2 hours behind, but for now, it's just an hour is different.
Ah, wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you. And thank you for accepting to come to our show this evening. And yes, because 1 hour goes very fast. Let me start with you, Purity, now this time. Tell us, how was growing up for you when you were a little girl, then you grew to be a young lady? What were your aspirations when growing up in terms of career, in terms of marriage?
Okay, I grew up in a small village in Kiambu County and schooled in a local school there, and later joined Alliance Girls High School. I grew up in a Christian home. So what I didn't say when I was introducing myself is that I'm a Christian. I am born again, and I'm a follower of Christ the Lord. Yeah, and it comes from my upbringing. I was brought up in a home where it was a very close-knit and loving family with dad and mom, and I have 2 brothers. And as I grew up, my parents really encouraged me and supported me towards being a professional woman And they taught me, I was an only girl, but they taught me that there should be no difference between me and the boys. And there's nothing that I shouldn't be able to achieve if I put my heart at it. So I grew up in a happy family, humble beginning, but family rich in love. And of course, I aspired to get married, very much so. My dream was that I'll get married before I turn 30. The age was 30 because I also knew I'd like to grow a career and to be a professional mother. So the dream was to be a mother to 2 kids, and it was said to be 2+1. Probably we'll talk about that later. Boy and a girl, and also to be a professional and a career woman, and soar the heights in the professional world as well.
Wow, wow, lovely. What about you, Ndung'u? How was growing up for you? What did you aspire to be? When did you want to get, to have a family, get married? Yeah. You're muted. Sorry, Ndung'u.
Sorry, I like that qualification because I have a family. The fact that I'm single, I don't have a family.
Yes, you do.
I know. So my aspiration was growing up. They're very simple, by the way. Before you get into the marriage one, I really desired to live in Nairobi because I grew up in a village. That's one. There are 3. 2 is I really desire to speak proper English. And number 3, I used to see, I think, my sister and her friends, these sort of polished people. My sister then used to wear patent heels. I don't know, if you're familiar with those shoes,
Yeah.
So I was like, I want a good life. And I think this life is lived in the city. So me, I'm living my 3 aspirations, Pauline.
But you just wanted to come to the city. And yes, you are in the city. What about getting married?
And speak good English and have a good life.
And
getting married
and have a good life, yeah?
And getting married, I guess it was sort of the cultural conditioning. I'm like, it gets to a time you find yourself married. But I think with time, I'm like, I want to try this thing later, to be honest. So I didn't have that thing for 30. I'm like, I don't want. So for me, I'm like, I want to do this thing, later. And I think it's probably informed by the fact that I'm a last born in a family of 8. So I'd seen, my siblings, are married. And I'm like, see, also one can get married a bit late. But then, still that my desire was Purity said 5 children. Interesting. I was like, even me, I had 5 children. I still want them. Many, we are 8, so those 6 of one child. Surely you need to send one to bring the remote, another one you're beating with the slippers, another one is warming food.
Yeah.
So, that was it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how was nice to hear that, Ndung'u. I'll definitely get back to you on that one. So Purity, so now you're growing in your career and you get to near 30. So how was it that time in terms of you knowing that it's almost when I really desire to have a husband?
Well, things were going according to plan. My career after graduation took a very good start. As an auditor, I had the privilege of working in one of the big 4 audit firms as my first job. And that's a dream for every auditor because you want to start in one of the big 4 audit firms in the world. So for me, career-wise, everything was going well. And so was relationship-wise as well. There was at the time I was dating, and in fact, I actually got engaged, and there were plans to get married as planned at 29, as planned just before 30,
Yes.
as the plan.
Yes.
So
the career and the about 30, everything was going in plan.
Super. Everything was perfect. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then?
So got engaged. That, of course, with the plan of getting married in the same year that I was 29 years old. So wedding bells were beckoning, excitement, the dream is coming to be, the usual ceremonies that are done after you get engaged, the whole 9 years of Russia, the dowry ceremonies. and all of that, and everything was superb, and yeah, the dream was coming true. But sadly and unfortunately, a few months to the wedding, I broke the engagement. It was a very difficult thing to do. As you can tell, this was a moment of just about to get there, where, you know, childhood dream of where you're to be now a professional career woman and mother, just exactly as you envisioned it to be. Yeah, so it was really, really difficult. It was a painful moment. I mean, going through any breakup is difficult and painful, but going through an engagement is excruciating pain, and it's to say the least, it was just devastating.
So for someone who is listening, possibly you said that you broke it up. Is it something you felt that you were not comfortable going with into marriage? Was it a red flag?
Yes, that's the thing. There was quite a few red flags, and of course, it wasn't a decision that I made in isolation. We were in discussion with my pastors, my counselors, and well, eventually my family, of course, had to get involved in it. So it wasn't a decision I made lightly, but perhaps when I look back, it's probably a decision I should have made earlier. I probably just dragged it, and I think in looking back in hindsight, probably I should have made that decision before things got so progressed so far. But yeah, it was, I still remember when it happened, and I spoke to my father, and he said that it's better a broken engagement than a broken marriage. And so he said, if you first think through if this is what you really want, and if that's what you want, we will support you through it, and we'll be with you. Yeah.
So that had you really progressed? Had dowry happened?
Yes, dowry had been paid, everything. Well, just there was only that ceremony. Those people who come from my side of the world, from Mount Kenya side, there was the last ceremony where you go to visit the guy's side just before the wedding. That's the only one that was remaining. But dowry was paid, everything agreed upon, families, everything was done. Yeah.
So what did that mean? Dowry having been paid, what did that mean?
It meant that, as my parents said, once they first give me time to be sure that that's what I want. And yes, when after that, there had to be a process of returning the dowry.
Returning the dowry.
It was a very painful and difficult process. It was, you know, I wasn't there. My parents thought it wasn't a good idea for me to be present at the time when they were doing that, but it's one of those things that's just full of tears from both sides. So it was really intense.
Okay. So when you look back, what you're saying is, and I'm thinking a single person or someone who is in that process of deciding, do I move ahead? I like what you said. You felt that you should have actually done it before it progressed. Yes. But you kept going.
Yes, but it's not an easy decision to make. And of course, because, you know, your people around us try to encourage that, you know, everyone goes through problems and, you know, but when I look back, I think it was the right decision to make. But like I said again, probably if I made it earlier, then there would have been less, I don't know whether there would have been less tears, but probably there would have been less emotions involved, and probably should have been less devastating for both sides of the families, because at this point, not only is it just about the two of you, but it involves families, parents who had already gotten to know each other and like each other, and, you know, see their kids getting married. And so it becomes a lot harder. But while I still, like I said, my dad still said it's better this than to have later a broken marriage. Yeah.
So Purity, at 30, when you had really aspired to be married, you became single again.
Now you go back, you're 29 with a big 3-0, as it is called, staring at you in the eye, and you're zero, not even a friend, you know, because at the time, and if anything, you're in pain because you're still going through the process of that failed relationship. And so it was a difficult moment. Forget the dream now. I mean, you don't have anything, and it was really difficult, difficult. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I'll get back to you. So Ndung'u, so now you're in Nairobi, you're in Nairobi, you're even working. And of course, the dream of having a wife is here. You want 5 children. How has it been for you in the relationship world?
Wow, thank you. But I think first is my, I almost want to say condolences to Purity, but I realize that's not the word. It's, sorry, Purity, I think, that must have been difficult.
Really?
That must have been hard. And the God of grace, and I think at that moment you imagine you won't see the following day, but here you are. I think that's the beauty of grace. So Pauline, to you, I think in terms of relationship or the dream. So as I said, I didn't have that deadline for 30 for marriage. And I guess I must be honest to the people listening out there, our biology clocks are not the same, for women. You can always get married at 70 as a man and marry a 20-year-old and life continues. So there are those realities. It's the truth, just to be honest.
Yes, biologically, yes.
Yeah, so, but I think for me, I haven't, gone the path like, purity, of getting into the very advanced. So I guess there is the sort of the university, having fun and all that. So I haven't gotten there. But I think in terms of the relationship world is when you are in a relationship with somebody dating, when it ends, it doesn't leave you the same. There's some investment you are done in yourself or in this person. So one that's broken, there's a void. And I think it's also pretty much defines how you look at things, how you look at the other species. And I guess for us men is what do you call it? There are those things for quickly moving on to the next person. And here is the thing, I guess, for the single people who are out there, I am single, and as your series is saying, is it stop living? I've forgotten. This is weird.
Yeah, no, don't stop living.
Don't stop living, And, Pauline, I'm going to have fun. So here, we wouldn't be uptight. So I think it's a thing for, you have to realize that you are complete, and that means you're better when you're married or you're better when you're single. Life has its challenges, so enjoy this life. But I guess and it's all depending. I'm a Christian, so for me is how can I also live life? I'm still single, but I also need to live life knowing I'm a Christian, and there are people who watch me. I got my firstborn sister and myself, the difference is like a million years. 16 thereabout. So I got nephews and nieces who are big. So there are those people watching me. There are people in church. There are people younger than me. They also need to also see that being single is not a curse or a bad thing, but also you can't be reckless. You need to live life, enjoy, but also live within the the confines or the pressings of being a Christian and that kind of a thing. So that has been my journey in terms of relationships. So here is the thing, analogy I'll give, and I guess whoever is on Facebook, if my group life, what are they called, the Bible study, they know I give this example is, remember, for example, like for Purity or for me, today you're giving life with the perspective of postscript. When Purity broke up her engagement that day or that week, she was like, the world should come to an end. But today we are speaking with a postscript perspective. It's the same way when people are reading the scripture. When you're reading the New Testament, we have a postscript. Let me use the Old Testament is more dramatic. Like, for example, you wonder, Moses has gotten all the people at the bank of the Red Sea, and they're like, how will it be? And of course, Christians will be like, Jehovah God, he will, send your rod and throw your rod and open the Red Seas. It's because we have a postscript, we know, because it is already written. For Moses, he didn't know. So even for Purity and even for myself, at that moment when an engagement or a relationship is breaking, you don't have a postscript. So there is that emotional and the pain that you go through. So for the person who is listening here, who has not had the perspective of postscript, I think his one is that you will go through the emotions because it is, it's normal. And as a Christian, I'll also say it's very interesting that God sometimes also he lets emotions be. He doesn't, there's not this paracetamol, for emotions. But I guess it's a thing of, do I trust and do I stay hopeful that indeed that, one day I'll get and enjoy, marriage. So whoever is listening they are not at the space of the postscript, but I guess it is the faith of believing that, God will take care of me, because there could be somebody now, it could have happened yesterday, they saw your post and they're listening to it. I guess is that thing of like that I will trust, but even as I'm trusting and I'm believing, I will sort of do what it pertains to serve God, that he will preserve me. Yeah, it's only him who can sort of preserve you.
Who can preserve you.
Who can preserve you and to live that life or that dream, that the plan that God has for you. Yeah.
So yeah, so you talked about the emptiness is there, but
It's
you
real.
always but are there times you have felt, okay, will now this other one happen? Have you ever had as a man gotten to that place of wondering, when will it happen? How will it happen? Will the next one maybe be successful?
Yeah, I hear you, Pauline. And I guess the first thing you ask yourself is that you sort of get in that place. You're like, you're obviously inadequate. And of course, the way relationships are, so you can decide to blame yourself forever. It won't change anything. There are also the realities of, will it happen? But I think, for me, I'm like, I've learned to sort of know at its time. And I guess as I'm saying, now I'm speaking from the other side of the Red Sea. But there's a reality then today of, there are days or seasons that are of loneliness. The truth, Pauline. I mean, you are my friend. So
There are times you feel lonely.
Yeah, there's sometimes, like for example, even sometimes you have gotten a family emergency or a situation, and you're like, if you had a helper partner, they would be running to sort of admit whether it's your mother while you needed to finish a paper. You know what I mean? It's real, but you can't also dwell on that. So you have to sort of you encourage yourself in the Lord.
Wow,
so
I like
that.
that.
To live a hopeful life,
Yeah, I like that. Encouraging yourself. Yes, you wish, but you keep encouraging yourself. Now, Purity, how have you managed? There are so many maids. So you get to 40, you got to 30 and continued to be single. And of course, you are progressing in your career, yeah? How was that? What were you getting to hear? I mean, and even you yourself, within yourself, what was going on? Like, my career is working now, I'm not dating. How was that for you?
So the question is how I've managed through, and also how it was that the career is growing and this other side is not as much. Okay. First, on the part of your career growth, there are certain advantages that you have as a single person, which is a positive. I would be in the office till midnight, and I don't have any guilt of children that have been left unattended, or that I'm taking away time from the family time from my spouse or anything like that. And so you can put in a lot, and so you're in a good place to grow your career because you have the time to commit to that. And also, for instance, if anything that requires like moving or relocating, you can be anywhere. I took a decision to leave the country and go work outside. At the time, my first place to work was working in West Africa. Most probably, when I left Nairobi, most probably if I was married at the time, I would not have made that decision for sure. And even if, because there's so many, it's not, as a single person, it's just a matter of packing up your bags and leaving. But if you're married, you have to think about your family. Is it a safe place for the kids? Does the husband agree? Will he also get to work? I mean, it's a lot more complex. And so on that regard, and Paul talks about it in the Bible, that for the single people, you can be more dedicated to even God's work, because you only have God to please. You don't have a spouse to please, as opposed to married people. And so what I talk to the singles, and being a single myself, is that we need to seize those opportunities, because that whatever God has blessed you with, he has given you unique talents and gifts and resources because of your purposes on earth. So that time, it's a season of singlehood, and you need to make the most. He's a God of seasons. So what is provided for you during that season? Because when you're married, of course, you have to do a balancing act, and it gets harder. So yeah, so when you're asking how I've managed, one, I had a lot of time to now dedicate to my career, and so my career was growing. And then you asked about how I've managed through those voices. You can choose to listen to those voices, or you can listen I chose to listen to the voice of truth. The voice of truth, which is the voice of God, tells you that you're enough, that you're a child of God. And so if you keep listening to the ones that are telling you that you shouldn't progress, you shouldn't do this, then you will be in a dilemma. But to be honest, of course, I have been there. I've been at a point where I've also been told that you have to be careful, because if you grow too much, and then now you'll be intimidating the men, and now you're reducing your chances of getting married. So you need to be careful and not do some of these things when you're making decisions like investment. One time I was trying to make a decision about investing in a mortgage to buy a house, and I spoke to still single, of course. I spoke to a male friend, and he was a friend, and he was talking as a friend who wants to help, and he knows, of course, my desire to get married. And he was like, you know what? I don't think you should do this. That would be to chase away the men. So, and then he said, then I was like, this doesn't add up. God has opened opportunities for me. At the time, I was working in an organization that was offering a mortgage at low rates, and it did not make sense to me that God, I provided this opportunity and just pass it up because I'm going to scare men. And so when I reasoned with him, he told me, okay, fine. If really you must do it, then you can do it, but make sure that you don't, when you meet potential suitors, you don't mention it. Let it remain a secret so that they don't. Yeah, so those voices are real. They're there. And so I feel you, my fellow single women. It's a real, and it puts those fears in us, but we have to still focus and keep our faith in God and believe that what he says, that he will make everything beautiful in his own time. But it doesn't mean that before that time comes, we just sit and shrink. And so that, we whatever God doors that God opens, and you'll hear his still voice telling you, this is the way, walk into it, then you must do it and you must obey. And if he is the creator of the universe, and everything in the world belongs to him, even those handsome young men belong to him. And so in his own time, he will bring along.
Mm-hmm. Is there a time that it was truth, you believed in it, in that, yourself as a person, Purity? Are there times you wanted to do something, then you stopped to do it and decided let me just wait? Yes, there's those that come from people. Did they become a reality to you also?
Yes. What I'm trying to say is that I had moments, like at that particular point when I was trying to take this mortgage. Yes. I had that moment, of being told I have to be, and it kind of got to me, especially when I spoke to this man, because he's someone I respected, someone older than me. And, so I thought I could, and I took his advice seriously. And at that point, I not just now in that aspect, but I thought in everything else, I also got those thoughts of, should I just be, remain at a certain level, until you get married, then you can make this decision. So I know I have been there too. But I do remember a particular point. It's very interesting because at this point I was driving. I remember very clearly. I was driving on Peponi Road in Westlands, coming from, and this quote, it comes from Marianne Williamson, and it is quoted a lot. In fact, most people attribute it to Nelson Mandela, and it spoke to me, of course, besides the word of God that tells us we should not be, God has not given us a spirit of fear, and so we shouldn't be afraid. He's given us a spirit of power. Power does mighty, wondrous things. A spirit of love. So in everything that we do it out of love as opposed to out of fear. And a spirit of a sound mind to make reasoned decisions. So that's the spirit that God has given us, not a spirit of fear. But still, even knowing that there's sometimes that you still get into that, you would get into that space, and of course wonder that, of course I know that he says he'll grant us the desires of our hearts, but really, will I actually still get married? I'm now 35 or I'm whatever age. So there's still those voices. But the quote that I was talking about, I'd like to quote it directly. You've probably also heard it from Mandela. It says, you are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So it says there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that those ones, the people around you may not feel insecure around you. And that's from that moment I made a decision. Whatever it is, whatever God brings my way, the doors that he opens, the opportunities that he gives to me, I'm going to seize them and I'm going to live my single life fully, in full. So yes, there was a moment, and there are moments of feeling that way, but I think from that decision, I never looked back. I said, I'm going to live my life, my single life, as if this is all I have. Because after all, we do not know about tomorrow or about that phase to come. Of course, we keep the faith and the hope alive. But at the same time, none of us, even the married, is promised tomorrow. Tomorrow belongs to God. And so what we have is now. And so I decided this is the season I am in, is my single life, and I'm going to live my single life to the fullest.
Wow. That is powerful, Purity.
Thank you.
Ndung'u, mate, you're working so hard. You don't have a wife. You don't have children. When are we going to eat pilau?
I know.
You're having a lot of money. Who are you eating money with? Those things, when they come, have they come to you, first of all? Let's get there.
Did you just say eating pilau?
Have you been asked that?
And I'm like, the supermarket is open, you can buy rice and we can cook it.
That's how you tell them, Ndung'u.
Here is the thing about pressure. The pressure is real. You have many things, you're making a lot of money, mnakula na nani, and I guess, when will be the wedding, all those things. I think for me is you got to sort of have an ear to listen to what is legit and what is garbage, which is pretty much 80% of it. You need to be, another thing you need to be, I think, for, young men, young women, is, I'm not a woman, so I don't know how the pressure is, but I sort of depend on
I think.
you may be surprised. It could be probably the same. Because I think, for, I guess, for men, women are like us. I guess for women, it would be very odd, Purity, for your uncle to say, when will you get married? I guess they will keep that distance. So I guess the thing is, because, the pressure comes from family, church, work, and all that. Let me be a bit systematic. So for work, for me, I'm very clear. For work, also, we are not discussing private things. So it's very easy.
A little volume, Ndung'u.
A little volume for me?
Yeah, because those are serious points we cannot miss to. We need to get them clearly. So now you are saying at work.
I am talking systematically, so professionally. I think for me is just politely. I just don't entertain the mixing of, now that we are colleagues or we are working together. We, when are you getting married? I'm like, I don't mix. So for me, it's easier to handle. I'm like, hi, Pauline, you sort of made a comment. We can have it offline. And I'm like, it's work. So we are, this we are not dealing with. It's very simple. And I think, also that happens with bosses. And I think you need to tell them, stay in the line. So I think, there's a boss for me. She wouldn't quite get it. One day I made an extremely inappropriate joke. She learned her lesson. It was very
inappropriate. So at work, you make it clear. Please, let's not mix my personal with my work.
We are not mixing those things. So when bosses tend to harass people, so when I think I worked with sort of an organization that has a culture of Americanish, and I'm like, these things are bordering sexual harassment, so take it serious. Because I can see even the younger women who are there, they would sort of go through the same. So for work is that easy. I'm like, let's be professional. I know. Church, I think my example is not good, because I think for my example is a bit extreme. So the church I've been attending is with sort of those mavuno. So we began, and I've been in position of leadership, so I'm able to ward off sort of those comments easily, because whether it is in the small community or in ministry, you're sort of the leader. So there's a match, it wouldn't come. So I think that would not be a good example for people.
So
but I guess
it helps you that you're a leader in church. So many
for
people.
me, yeah, I guess, it's an added benefit. So there are some people who they'll be like, you do not touch the anointed of the Lord. So they would ask. Or I have noticed a few who make the mistake, or rather they get confused because they're like, oh, so GK, your family doesn't attend you. And I'm like, yeah, they go to a different church.
Oh, so actually some know that.
Yeah, they imagine,
married, but his family doesn't attend
they don't attend here.
Mm-hmm.
I go to one of those churches where even a pastor's wife can decide to do her ministry elsewhere. I mean, on a light note. So, but I think there's also some time, a pastor, as I said, you have to have an ear of, is this a person who is, is it a genuine conversation I should entertain or not? So, and I guess, you have a bilateral conversation, and for me, I don't try to justify why I'm not married. Also, you are also not God, politely. So, but I sort of, have a conversation, sort of, this is my situation. But I don't think when you're a single person, honestly, to be fair, before the cross of Jesus Christ, that you owe somebody an answer. Yeah. But for example, like family, if your mom, uncle, brother, whoever asks, I guess it makes sense that you're like, okay, so I may need to have a conversation with them. And I think for me, you remember that joke of Pilao is, you need to sort of realize people sometimes they ask that to embarrass you. So I think for me, I don't respond in the same way. If you're small, I can't get small, Pauline. I don't do that.
So if it's an embarrassing situation,
I
you'll not go there.
I won't go there. I am not small. I mean, yeah, and I think it doesn't help that also the Lord is dealing with my pride. Anyway, that's for another day. It's good to know yourself.
Wow. Okay.
So I think you sort of politely pull that person and you look for them and you're like, this is what I felt. And there's a thing for someone like, no, that's not what I meant. I'm like, let us have a conversation of what I felt and what you meant. Those are two different things, So I'm able to say it in English or in Kikuyu. And I guess so for family pressure is that I think you got to be smart about it. And I think the words I want to use is that you got to be courageous to confront it. So you need to be courageous, but you also need to be wise. So it is courage that is tempered by wisdom.
Okay.
Yeah, Pauline, even for you, when your auntie asks you, when will we eat Njahi or Mushere, that kind of a thing, don't also insult her. I mean, you are her child. So, so have courage.
Some wisdom.
And then you temper it with wisdom. The reason I'm saying that is, and I think for people who are single, they need to hear this is, because of sort of those questions in spaces that you go, whether it is family or where you hang out is, if you sort of are afraid to address it, you find many relationships are broken or friendships die, or people are not, or you don't visit home, or you don't go to, and I guess, for me, you don't go to family functions where the aunties will be asking. So you deny yourself some joy anyway and some good camaraderie, So, and that's the reason why you need to address it so that you fit in the space. I'm not imagining at there's a function at home, at least my aunt will come and ask me, you could equate to Pia. She can wait. You know what I mean?
Want this to go.
As I was saying, Pauline, I think some of the way this kind of conversation, we need to have fun. Can you imagine, Purity? I'm refusing to go home to celebrate like my mother's 85th birthday because Auntie X will ask me about marriage. I'll be like, we'll have that conversation with her a whole night, and I'm like, girl, take me through your great anointed marriage. Let's bring it on. I mean, So young unmarried people, don't deny yourself joy because of spaces where you feel you're attacked and that kind of a thing. So deal with yourself. It takes time, and courageously address it, but with wisdom. If Pauline, for example, you are unmarried, I don't know, you're headed, I don't know that who, and your uncle happens to be the chief of staff of the president, you see also you can't just tell them who are like that. You would need to courageously respond, and you're like, either we can have it, by in a bilateral way, or we can you can sort of open a space for me. Maybe I have my fears, you sort of guide me because you've been in it, those things. And of course, there's also wisdom. with people, I mean, from people who are married and they're like, this is what I think, this is what you can do, and that kind of a thing. But if you are for the crowd, you're responding to, someone next to them at 3, you are not married, surely you can't live life like that. In fact, I'll give you a sort of an equivalent example. If you respond if you live that way, you deny yourself joy. I remember this girl, and we're having a conversation in our house, were many, and someone was talking, which was a conversation of boys, girls, and boys were like, but you when people talk to you, you probably are not responding. She was like, hang on. So you're telling me because someone says hi to me, I should figure out they are into me or they're hitting on me?
That they want a relationship.
And here is a killer. She said, the watchman says hi to me every morning and every evening. So should I respond that he's romantically...
that everybody, I should be so careful to say hi to everybody just in case it's them. Yeah, wow, so I like that. I think what I like, Ndung'u, is what you said about the wisdom and the courage and the wisdom. Like, don't say you'll not go somewhere because people will ask you why you're not married. And again, you don't answer everybody. You're not obliged or entitled. Wow, but of course, with wisdom and courage. So Purity, you introduced yourself that you're a mother. And so how did you become a mother, and when and how did you make that decision?
Okay, I became a mother on 7th December 2018 after going through a process of adopting my daughter. So when, of course, I'm single, so I was still single. So she's turned 3 years in May, and she's the joy of my life. Yes. So you asked how I made the decision.
Yeah, how because you are still single. Didn't that make it? What were you told? Wasn't it making it harder for yourself?
Yes. So in that dream, the dream I told you of getting married pre-30 and getting the 2 kids, that used to be the initial dream. But when I was younger, at the university is when the started growing of adoption. After seeing some like girls who, of course, as Christians, we're very much against abortion, but I'd see these young girls who feel like they're between a rock and a hard place. And I started seeing, even at the university, so seeing, that indeed we talk about it, but we don't, as Christians or as a society, offer so much support that would help the girls make better informed decisions if they find themselves in such a place where they have a baby that they did not plan for. Anyway, that's a long story short, but the crux of it is that and also now when I started working and I was a leader for a Bible study for Mamlaka Chapel, but for the Ruaka, and we used to have every year we'd go to a children's home, usually near Christmas around December, we'd go every year to children's home, spend a day with the kids, do shopping for them, play with them. That used to be, but it used to get to me that every time we're leaving, those kids would be crying. Some of them would be saying, take me with you to your home. And I got to wonder that, of course, as Purity, there may not be much that I can do about the many children that do not have loving homes like the one I grew up in, but perhaps maybe I could make a difference in just one. If I may not make a difference in the whole world, but I can make the world of a difference in one person or in one child. And so that's when this started being in my mind and in my heart, the burden for a long time. And so this dream was revised from 2 kids of a boy and a girl to two biological kids. And the last born, now a girl, was to be an adopted daughter, because I thought I would like to do that. And so now every time I'd be in a serious relationship that we are talking marriage, I would bring it up with my partner and say, would you think this would be a good idea that once we have our kids, then we can adopt one more? Of course, there were different responses depending on the person, but that still remained in me that I'd like to do that. Anyway, you asked how I got to this decision. So already it's a decision that I'd been there. Then come 2017, I was going through the pain of another failed relationship. And, and at the time I I remember by this time I had made my decision that I'm going to live my life to the fullest. And coincidentally, actually, the relationship I had just broken, the person, of course, that had brought up adoption was not for the idea, was completely against. And of course, now I had kind of said, okay, so eventually when you get married, since this won't happen, because obviously you cannot do it alone if you're married. So it kind of wasn't going to happen but since we were working towards marriage, I was just, was ready to just let it pass.
Yes.
Then now the relationship breaks and I'm in pain. And out of the blues, I don't know, this just came to me. It was like a revelation of thoughts. You know what, Purity, that adoption that you always wanted to do, and now you had already now it is so much easier. Like I said, we have to see that. I was like, no, I don't need to consult a partner who has to agree or refuse, or I have to convince or what have you. It was like God speaking, because it was like, yes, it was like an aha moment that yes, this is what an opportune time to do it. I had already made a decision to live my single life to the fullest. And so it wasn't as difficult for me. But later, after the excitement of this saying, oh yeah, this is the best thing to do, then of course the reality hits that, oh wait, this is such an enormous task that it looked like a daunting process, the whole legal process of adoption, and it's rigorous and can take forever and what have you. And some people also think there are myths out there that it's expensive, you're buying a child and all of this. And then I'll forget about all those. There was my family to deal with. This is not one of those that you can do without their knowledge or even your friends and all of that. Yeah, so then I realized that I was not afraid again. I don't know whether I can do this. I'm not sure about this. So I did speak to a few people. You asked what my friends or people around me said. And yes, they told me, you know what, you're doing this. You're hoping and, dreaming that you'll get married. This is just reducing your chances of getting married. Because now on top of everything, you'll be a mother, and it's going to reduce some men would not be for this idea. And you know what? They were right, because when I was almost concluding the process, in one way, they were not fully right, but in a way they were right, because in the process of adoption, I met this guy and was interested in me, but I was actually almost concluding the process. In fact, my daughter was already with me physically, but the legal process was still ongoing. And they could not understand why I'm doing this, and they tried to dissuade me to stop it, actually. So I could see that, but of course, by this time, I had made up my mind, and it was already done, really. And so I didn't give it time. So yes, there's truth in it. It's not just people saying that it will reduce. It indeed is true. So yeah, some people told me that, but I also there are other people who are quite positive about it. Specifically, there's one lady I spoke to. She happens to have done adoption herself as a single woman. And I thought to speak to her and, get to know, ask her about all these things. And I have never forgotten. One thing she told me was that, you know what, the only regret I have is that I did it much later. I wish I did it earlier, the time when I had this thought. I am regretting that I did it much later in life. The second thing she told me, then I told her, but how are you dealing with this? Of course, I've been told that the men will run away now, and I will, they will miss a man because of all this. She told me, you know what, Purity, you'll be married to one man, not 20. You don't need 50. You only need what?
One man.
One man. So he told me, if it's going to reduce the number of men, after all, you need one. So,
wow.
So, and that's deeply in me, and I thought, yeah, that's right. I mean, there's no point in having 10 men interested in me. At the end of the day, even if there were 10, I would still end up getting married to one. And so he was like, all you need is to have one committed man and he told me, so it's going to filter out and eliminate those who you do not share the same values in this sense. If it is a man who does not share my values of compassion to the less fortunate, of being kind and generous, then we don't share the same values. And, and then I'd rather, if it is be the one man with whom would share these values, which anyway is what I'd look for in a man, is someone who's committed, who is generous and kind, you know. And so I was like, that's that with me, and forget now all the other thoughts or wherever. I went ahead with it.
Wow. How was it for your parents when you first told them?
Whew. Of course, at first for them, they were puzzled because from our cultures, I think it is not probably like where I am in Switzerland. In the Western world, adoption maybe is more openly done and more openly talked about, as opposed to our culture. And interestingly, it's not that it never even used to happen in the past, because you'd have, I'm sure in your family you can think of people who are brought up not by the exact family, even it's just extended family, only that's not done legally, maybe. But it happens that kids being brought up by parents who are not their biological parents. But there's kind of, you know, there's sort of a stigma in our societies and in our culture associated with adoption, and it's just talked in hushed tones. That, do you know that kid is a bot, it was bought, you know, things like that, and other terms that are derogatory, that are not really. So in our culture, it's not something that people are so open. Maybe
that people are open. Did they think possibly you have shelved the idea of marriage? Like,
exactly, yes.
Want to go this way?
Yeah, so you asked my dad, that's actually the first thing he told me the time I told him about this, and he told me, so this is you telling me that you're not going to get married. Remember, I'm the only daughter. So this is you telling me that you're not planning to get married. I'm like, no, Dad, it does not mean that I'm not getting married. This should not stop me, and I still want to get married, and I look forward to getting married. But I think we associate that the people who adopt are maybe, you know, parents who are not able to get kids of their own for whatever, maybe medical reasons. But it cannot be that a single person just chooses not to adopt a child who have not tried to get their own kids and are not able to do that. And that was my case. So yeah, so even then they're also concerned that this will you know, might make you not get married. But I told Dad, no, that is not the case. And of course, at first, his straight answer at first, when I told him, was no. But yes, I am happy to say that by the time, but we also said, we talked at length in the night. And then we went to bed and we said, let's think and pray over these things. And when we woke up the next morning, I was really surprised because the tone had changed. The question was not that. The previous decision the previous night was, nope, it's not happening, not in my household. But the next morning, the question was, okay, so why are you adopting a girl and not a boy? So now we have moved.
They were now okay, interesting.
And
because again, you had decided to live your life, so God somehow just
worked on them as well, and the family. And today they love my daughter to bits, and not just my parents, but my brothers and their families. And you know, she feels a sense of belonging, and she feels she's part of this family. And a lot of people, because my brothers have kids exactly the same age, maybe a month difference or 5 months difference, you'd think they're twins or triplets when you see the three of them, and you'd not tell a difference. And because they're loved and they feel at home. So they're adopting grandparents to her, as well as my other nieces. And so yes, God works in mysterious ways, from a very, you know, clear no, to my dad now praying. I remember when she came home and Dad praying for her, and that really touched me. So you decide to live your life and don't worry about what will people say or what will my parents say or what. But I know it's a real fear. I took a long while before I told my parents, because I was afraid. I was really afraid what they're going to say about it. But when you do that, God makes it, and made even the whole legal process and everything that I was very scared about, and you know, was really terrified. How is it going to happen and all of that? God made that process to be so smooth. If you have talked to other adoptive parents, my process took exactly 9 months, which is the 9 months that it takes to get from the time I submitted my documentation to the time that the baby came home. Was exactly 9 months. And that is a record time, especially for a girl, which takes longer to be matched with. And it also took another 8-9 months from the time I started the legal process in court to the day that I was granted, which is last year, July 2019, when I was granted the adoption decree from the High Court of Kenya. So it took a very short time in that process it is nothing but divine favor in every office that I was to. Not anybody I knew or any judge I knew or anything. In fact, I was making flights from from abroad to come for the court hearing and everything, but God made a way. So leave the fear and live your life, and leave the rest to God about the how, the what they'll say. Live your purposes and accomplish what God puts you, because there's a specific purpose for you, and purposes may not be one. And so if you live in fear, then you don't get to accomplish them. So I'd say, single people, seize your moment.
Wow, amazing. Ndung'u,
Hmm?
where our life is, our time goes so fast, and this you guys are just bringing out, and I'm just believing that there are single people out there just encouraged by your sharing. Where is your life at now, Ndung'u, and how would you encourage a young man there? Possibly he's 30, 32, 35, 40. What would you tell? How is your life right now, and what would you tell that young person?
Thank you, Pauline. My life is good, and I think, what would I tell that person? Hii dunia hakuna mahali naenda. COVID has shown us that, you know. Just some flavor for laughter. You know, my life is good, career, but I guess, 2020, I mean, I'm surviving. You know, I get to the 1st of January 2021, I'll be like, I survived 2020.
Mhm.
But I think, on a more serious note is, there are many things Pauline said, Purity said, talked about, the advantages of being single in terms of career. But also at the end of the day is that you don't exponentially grow now that if you are to still be an accountant and you're single, you'll be president. It doesn't also work like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of, life has sort of the normal kind of, of a path. But I think in terms of where my life is, I'm good, career, growing, enjoying. And I think also the bit that I also like to say is that it also allows me sort of more space and scope to serve God. I guess it's easier for me to serve, as a single person, whether it is, sort of retreats that you're able to spend the night, which would not have been easier when you are married because of children, spouse, and all that. So for me is because of time is where my heart is. Also, and I mean, bless the Lord with your youth by investing more in the kingdom. I think that's a one thing for me. And I guess again, the gift of then being single is at work, be diligent. You can actually do more. And I'm not saying you work past 5. No. Work is not slavery. But be diligent in your life, be diligent in your community, be diligent with your family. Give an example. As I said, we are 8 in my family. So if you're the one who is easier, you are the lighter one to sort of do an errand for the family, do it. Do it. Serve your siblings and their families. I think that's what I would say in life. But I guess the other part of the question was, what is it? What would I tell a single person?
Yeah, what
Please
would
enjoy.
you tell them as
Yeah,
a way
please.
of a parting shot to them?
Yeah, please live your life. But I think it is important to be defined as a Christian. That purity is an important thing. Not purity, my core. That you hear, sexual purity is important. You need to live that life. Don't now think that now I'm a single person. You imagine you are the greatest gift to girls in Nairobi. Don't you need to sort of be true to yourself as a Christian, and enjoy your life. It is an age of discovery. If it's career, you can experiment and go work in Papua New Guinea, because that decision not have been easier if you're married. I think that's what I would tell the single people. And the thing for pressure is find a rhythm and a balance, so that you stop feeling the pain and you stop feeling that people are against you. They are not. Of course, some of these things are societal jokes. So also just roll with the punches. Don't get too hard on yourself. Don't get too emotional. When people are telling you you're not married, it's life. And one of the things about being single is that sometimes people imagine, I have failed my family and many things. No, at God's timing, it will come. And I guess it's a thing for when Jesus was at the Garden of Gethsemane, he prays, he sort of starts with the 12, 3 and all that. He prays, and he's at a point where he tells his father, I did not choose this moment. I didn't, but I have found myself here. His prayer is a prayer of surrender. This cup, my desire would be you remove it, but your will be done. Wow. And that's the moment when the angel came to help him. After, he's been trying to do it with people. Jesus has this journey of trying to be with the Kirende, cut it to 12 to 3. It's a moment of agony. He finds himself there. So I think even for that state, for people who are at that pain and all that, surrender to God, and you're like, I didn't one day, when I was born, say I want to be single at 35. Surrender to that God, and you're like, this is my desire. This I would want people to treat me, people not to give me pressure and all that. Surrender, and then the angel of help will come. I'm telling you, he will come.
Wow, amazing! That is really a powerful way of giving your parting shot, Ndung'u. Purity, where is your life at now? And what is your parting shot to a lady out there who is listening?
Okay, where is my life? Right now, what I'm doing is I'm striving hard to be a great mom to Neema. That's chief on the list. Yes, but at the same time, of course, I am working hard to grow my career. I'm also pursuing my passions, which includes traveling the world. Of course, when we don't have COVID, this year you get to take a break from that. And at the same time to keep fit by running marathons. Yes, I ran marathons. Last year I did like 6 half marathons in like 3 different continents, in I don't know how many countries, from South Africa to Greece to the US to name it, to Jordan, of course, to Kenya. I did that kind of half marathon last year as well, to Switzerland, of course. So I am living my life to the fullest, and like Ndung'u has said, with the time and the resources that we have, getting to serve our societies, getting to serve and leave your impact in the world, and getting to serve our families, and that's being the best sister and daughter there is to my parents and to my family. So that's where my life is. And while I was busy, and was busy living my life to the fullest, my single life to the fullest, the best way I know how, then a handsome young man found me. And so, yes. And so, I'm 37 this year, so it is definitely not going to be a pre-30 marriage as planned. Far from it, obviously. But yeah,
So this is after Neema is in your life. Your daughter is in your life. You're still single. Someone comes.
Yes, and that's why I said it was when I was busy living my single life and saying I'm living it to the fullest, which of course that included having my daughter and bringing her up in the best way. But of course, God is amazing. And so of course, I don't know, I keep saying that probably he felt he needs to because my daughter calls my brother Baba because she doesn't know any better. But now she was getting to an age, she was starting to say, Mom, Shiko is my niece, who's my brother's daughter. Shiko told me that this is not my Baba. And she's kind of, so why did she? Anyway, so she's getting to a stage where she's starting to ask questions. So I don't know that at the time God decided, in the sense of humor, that we're going to have a daddy that is not a shared Baba with someone else. So,
how was it when you shared with him about your daughter?
He was absolutely positive about it and very glad and happy and excited to have a daughter, and of course in his thoughts is that that was a powerful thing to do adoption. So yeah, it was not a hindrance in any way, as my friend had said that there will be the one, you don't need the 20. Clearly that was true in itself. So yeah, you asked me what I would tell a fellow single lady out there. I would say that, of course, you keep faith that God's promises are yea and amen. And so you don't lose hope that, he will make things beautiful in his own time. That said, we know that we cannot twist God to do just everything that, that we want him to do. At the end of the day, he remains sovereign and we cannot question his decisions. And so while you keep the faith and you keep praying, we don't know his plans, and we cannot question his decisions. But when Daniel was thrown in this furnace of fire, he said that he knows his God will come and rescue him from it. But he also said something that we don't dwell on, that should he even not come and deliver me from this fire, I'm still not going to bow down to your death and to your God, and he shall still remain God in my life. It doesn't make him less God or if he does not rescue from your situation. So if I end up being still remaining single and not getting married, God still remains God, and I'll still honor him. And there's like someone said, and what I always feel is, if I was still get to 60, 50, 60, whatever, or even die having not gotten married, I would then regret that I put my life on hold, waiting for a man or waiting to get married. Then it also doesn't happen, because it's also not guaranteed that if you put your life on hold, then it's going to happen. No, there are no guarantees like that. And so I'd rather live my life, even if it doesn't happen. I will have no regrets about having not enjoyed or lived my life to the fullest. And so if I was to talk to any, but that is not to say that I'm trying to tell people to lose faith, to lose hope, and say that we are doing this, we are just going to enjoy our lives because, it may not happen. No, I still say you keep faith in God. You don't lose that. And he is faithful, and he will grant you the desires of our heart. And like I said, right now, the plan is that we're getting married by the end of the year, God willing, and COVID allowing, and all the traveling allowing with all the COVID and all of that, on 16th December, which will be my 38th birthday. So, yes. So I would tell the single girls out there that do not be cowed down, do not hold back. Awaiting you are destinies to shape. We have communities to heal. We have a country to build, and we have the world to leave an impact. So go out there and soar and have God as your guide. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It feels like we are just beginning. I mean, thank you so much. Thank you, Ndung'u. Thank you, Purity. You have heard it from the horse's mouth. I mean, you're out there, single lady, single man. And I like how they both have put the word of God, because it's about God, really. There's nothing, unless you want to use a shortcut. If you want God's plan for your life, you have to surrender. Just like Ndung'u said, surrender to him. And like Purity again say that even if he doesn't, when you really want it, you will still not bow. You will still not go through shortcuts and do the things. And I like what, again, Ndung'u said, and I want to tell the young people, sexual purity. And if you have actually not maintained it yet, there is secondary virginity. You can say, you know what? I don't have to enjoy the fruits of marriage before I'm married. I can still wait for marriage for the right person as I continue living. So don't stop living. I've been your host, Pauline Gikang'ah, my sign language interpreter, Fiona Wallace. And thank you, GK and Purity, for giving of your lives and your time this evening in our show Before I Say I Do, before and after I say I do. So see you next time for the second episode of Before I Say I Do. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.